It was just another noisy lunch shift at Silver Finch when a heavy leather wallet slid off a booth and hit Maya Alvarez's sneaker. She bent down, expecting a customer's forgotten tip. Instead, her eyes widened at the sleek black Amex card name embossed in silver. Victor Hallowell. A billionaire's wallet. Inside were thick bills, gold business cards, and a single worn photograph. A woman in a Coney Island t-shirt holding a baby smiled at the camera. Maya froze. That woman was her late mother. The baby her. But the man's face was blurred, the corner torn in the same shape as the missing piece Maya kept in her phone case. When she fit them together, her breath stopped. The tear matched perfectly. The next morning, Maya stood in front of the glass doors of Hallowell Systems, clutching the billionaire's wallet in her trembling hands. The skyscraper gleamed like a sword against the Manhattan skyline. She'd barely slept. The photo haunted her, the same tear, the same baby face. Her mother, Elena, had always dodged questions about Maya's father, saying only, he was someone who forgot how to stay. Inside, marble floors swallowed her footsteps. Receptionists with headsets moved like dancers in silence. When she mentioned Victor Hallowell's wallet, security guards appeared almost instantly. They weren't rude, but too polite, like people trained to make you feel small. "Mr. Hallowell will see you briefly," one said, scanning her up and down. "In the West Conference Room. Please, no phones." The elevator climbed so fast, her ears popped. When the doors opened, the first thing she noticed was the smell clean, cold, expensive. Victor Hallowell stood by the window, hands in pockets, Manhattan glittering behind him. Cassandra Vale, his fiancée and company PR head, was beside him, tablet in hand, smile sharp as glass. Maya held out the wallet. "You dropped this yesterday at Silver Finch." Victor turned slowly, studying her. His eyes were a pale grey, calculating, detached. "Ah. Thank you. You saved me some trouble." He reached for the wallet, but she didn't let go. "There was a photo inside," Maya said quietly. "A woman holding a baby. I know her." Cassandra's smile faltered for half a second. Victor's expression didn't change. "Photos end up in places they shouldn't," he said evenly. "Old friends, old memories." "She was my mother," Maya whispered. "Elena Alvarez." At that, Victor blinked too long, too slow. Cassandra smoothly stepped forward. "Miss Alvarez, thank you for returning Mr. Hallowell's property. We'll make sure you're properly compensated." She placed a sleek envelope on the table and slid a crisp non-disclosure agreement toward Maya. Maya's stomach twisted. "You think you can pay me to forget a photo?" "It's standard procedure," Cassandra said, voice honeyed. "For everyone's privacy." Victor finally spoke. "You're mistaken. I don't know any Elena Alvarez." Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, showing the torn scrap shed kept since childhood. "Then how do you explain this?" she asked, placing it beside his photo. The torn edges locked together perfectly, completing the picture. For the first time, Victor looked shaken. Cassandra's jaw tightened. She slid the photo back into the wallet, snapped it shut and said, "Mr. Hallowell's schedule is very tight today." Denise, Maya's manager, appeared at the door she had followed in case Maya needed backup. "Excuse me," she said coolly, "but our staff can't sign anything on behalf of the restaurant. Company policy." Victor looked relieved at the interruption. "We'll send your reward tomorrow," he said quickly. "Thank you for your honesty." Cassandra leaned close to Maya as they left, her perfume sweet but her words venomous. "You didn't make a copy of that photo, did you?" Maya smiled faintly. Of course not. But she had. She'd taken a photo of the back where someone had written in faded blue Sharpie, "First day, Victor." When the elevator doors closed, Maya saw her reflection trembling in the mirrored walls. Outside, flashes popped, paparazzi catching Victor's stride. Cassandra whispered something in his ear. He nodded, cold, mechanical. Maya stepped into the street, heart hammering. Something in her life had just split open. She didn't know if it was destiny or danger, but she knew one thing for sure. Victor Hallowell was lying. The city looked different after that meeting, too sharp, too bright. Maya rode the 7 train home, the car swaying through tunnels like it was trying to shake off her thoughts. Her phone buzzed non-stop with private number calls she didn't answer. The image of Victor's eyes, the faint tremor in his jaw, replayed in her mind like a scene stuck on loop. She needed to talk to someone who could help her make sense of what she'd seen, someone who didn't bow to money or fear. She opened Instagram and searched a name she'd heard, whispered at the restaurant whenever rich men got sloppy. Jonah Reed, the investigative podcaster. His show Glass Ceilings had exposed illegal layoffs at a Hallowell subcontractor 2 years ago. People said he was reckless but fair, and that he hated corruption almost as much as he hated liars. Maya hesitated, then typed, "You don't know me, but I found something about Victor Hallowell you'll want to see." He replied within minutes, "Meet me somewhere public, bring proof, and order me coffee, I'm always late." They met in a corner deli near Bryant Park, its neon sign flickering like a dying heartbeat. Jonah arrived wearing a worn leather jacket, carrying a microphone and a battered Nikon camera. His eyes were sharp, but his smile disarmed her. "You're the waitress," he said, sliding into the booth. "The internet's already buzzing about you. Someone caught your photo outside Hallowell Tower." Maya's stomach sank. "Already?" "Welcome to the 21st century," he said dryly. "Now show me what you've got." She handed him her phone, scrolling to the photo she'd secretly taken, the back of the picture with the faint Sharpie words, "First day, Victor." Jonah studied it like a detective examining evidence from a cold case. "That handwriting," he murmured, "looks rushed, personal, not businesslike." He zoomed in. "And look behind your mother's shoulder. That wall. There's tape and a note, prototype, keep door locked. That's from his old garage lab in Red Hook. I've seen it in archived footage." Maya frowned. "You think my mom was there?" "I think she wasn't just there," he said quietly. "She lived there, maybe even helped him start his company, before he erased her name." Maya's throat tightened. "He said he didn't know her." Jonah smirked. "Men like him only forget what's inconvenient." He lowered his voice. "If that photo's real, it could rewrite his origin story. But we'll need proof, real proof. Paper, witnesses, timestamps." "I'm not looking for fame," Maya said softly. "I just want the truth." "That's the only reason worth doing this," Jonah replied. They spent hours reviewing her mother's old belongings, receipts, bus cards, postcards. One yellowed hospital bill had the date of Maya's birth, but the father's section was blank. Jonah took photos, then said, "We should find people who knew her back then." "Someone always remembers." He gave her the Nikon camera. "If anyone follows you, take pictures. Light is the best protection." As they left the deli, rain started to fall thin and cold. Jonah held the door for her, then paused. Across the street, a black SUV idled, engine humming, its tinted window lowered just enough for Maya to glimpse the driver's eyes expressionless, waiting. Jonah noticed too. "You weren't kidding," he muttered. "Looks like you've got their attention." Maya exhaled shakily. "What do we do now?" Jonah's mouth curved into a grin. "Now," he said, "we make them nervous." They split up at the corner, blending into the crowd. The SUV rolled forward, uncertain which way to follow. Maya ducked into the subway, just as the train doors slid shut behind her. Her reflection stared back in the window, half fear, half fire. For the first time in her life, Maya Alvarez wasn't running from her past. She was running toward it. 2 days later, Jonah texted Maya a photo of an address scrawled on a napkin. Hallowell Tower Service Entrance. Beneath it, a name Rafe Cruz. "Here's the night doorman," Jonah wrote. "Old school guy. Says he remembers a woman named Eleanor coming through years ago. We meet him tonight." By dusk, the city's glow felt uneasy, like eyes watching from every glass surface. Maya wore her mother's old denim jacket, the fabric soft and comforting. Jonah waited near the revolving doors, pretending to scroll his phone. When Rafe appeared, he looked like someone who'd seen too much, but learned to keep quiet, a barrel-chested man in his 60s with kind eyes and a limp. "I shouldn't even be talking to you," he murmured, glancing over his shoulder. "Everything in this building has ears." "We just need the truth," Maya said. Rafe exhaled. "Then come downstairs. Cameras don't cover the storage hallway." They followed him past gleaming marble into the dim service corridor, where the smell of polish gave way to metal and dust. Rafe pulled out an old notebook, its edges stained from years of pocket sweat. I kept logs back then. Just names, passes, times, habit from the army. He flipped to a page dated June 14th, 2000. The ink had faded, but the words were still there. Elena Blue Stroller, Unit 54B, OK Dul. By VH, Maya's throat closed. "That's her handwriting?" "Mine," Rafe corrected gently. "She came through the service door twice a week. Never smiled, but she carried a baby who did. I asked once who the father was. She said, 'He's busy making promises he won't keep.'" Jonah took a photo of the page. "Did you ever see Hallowell with her?" Rafe rubbed his chin. "Once. He came down, told me to erase the entry. Said she was family, but not to log it again." He looked directly at Maya. "You look like her, you know. Same stubborn eyes." For a moment, silence wrapped the hallway. Then Rafe added, "You're not the first person who's come asking questions. A woman in a grey suit came last week. Pretty. Cold. Asked if I'd ever heard the name Alvarez." Maya and Jonah exchanged a look. "Cassandra." Rafe chuckled bitterly. "I told her I forget things easy." "But you," he handed Jonah the notebook. "You take a picture, quick, I can't give it to you." As Jonah snapped photos, Rafe leaned close to Maya. "Word of advice, Cassandra Vale doesn't threaten twice. She erases the problem." Maya shivered. "Why help me then?" "Because your mother once brought me soup when I broke my leg. Didn't even know my name. Said kindness costs nothing." He smiled sadly. "She was wrong. It costs everything." When they left the building, night had thickened over the city. Across the street, the black SUV waited again. Jonah swore under his breath. "Persistent, aren't they?" Maya's phone buzzed, a voicemail from an unknown number. She pressed play. A calm, feminine voice filled the air. "Maya, this is Cassandra Vale. We need to talk. Stop chasing ghosts before they start chasing you." Then a click. Jonah's jaw tightened. "She's watching your phone." They ducked into a church nearby. And Agnes, its doors open and warm with candlelight. Inside, Father Tom looked up from polishing the pews. "Maya Alvarez," he said softly, as if the name had waited for years to be spoken. "You knew my mother?" she asked. He nodded. "She used to come here every Thursday, always praying for mercy for someone who wouldn't claim her." Maya's hands trembled. "Did she ever tell you who?" Father Tom hesitated, then said quietly, "She called him Victor. And she said one day the truth would find you, even if you ran from it." Jonah looked at her, eyes wide. She meant this. She meant now. Outside, thunder cracked and Maya knew the storm had only begun. Rain hammered the sidewalks that night as Maya followed Jonah to the side entrance of Hallowell Tower. The glass skyscraper shimmered like a blade against the storm, reflecting lightning in its mirrored surface. Jonah's message had been simple. "We've got a lead. Old doorman. Knows the name Eleanor." Her pulse thudded as they slipped through the security gate, where wealthy residents usually never looked twice. The service corridor smelled of bleach and metal. A tall man with grey hair and a limp stepped from the shadows, wiping his hands on a towel. "You're the waitress?" he asked. "Yes. Maya Alvarez." He nodded slowly. Rafe Cruz. I worked this building 25 years. Used to see everything until they told me to forget. Jonah raised his recorder. Off the record, Mr. Cruz. Please, Rafe said, lowering his voice. Not here. Follow me. They passed rusted pipes, old mop buckets, and a flickering exit sign until he pushed open a small door marked Storage B. Inside, rows of dusty ledgers lined the shelves. I used to keep my own notes, he explained. Not for them. For me. Things never felt right. He pulled out a battered notebook, its pages soft from age. The date read June 2000. Scrawled in neat cursive. Elena Blue Stroller, Unit 54B. Cleared by VH. Maya froze. That's my mother's name. You saw her here? Rafe nodded. Twice a week. Quiet woman. Always tired. Carried a baby in a blanket. One night, I asked if she lived here. She said, just for now. He promised us more once the company launches. She never said who, but later that week, Victor Hallowell himself came down. Told me she was family. Then said, lose the entry. Jonah leaned forward. Did you erase it? Rafe smirked. No one erases ink, kid. They just pretend they did. Maya's throat tightened. Did you ever see them together? Rafe hesitated. Once? In the service lobby after midnight. She was crying. He said, please, not now, Eleanor. Then the elevator doors closed, and that was the last time I saw her. He turned to a box on the shelf and pulled out a folded photo. She left this on the counter once. It showed Elena holding baby Maya beside a stack of boxes labeled prototype parts. A man's shadow stretched across the wall. Jonah's eyes widened. That's the same place from the photo she found in his wallet, the garage wall. Maya's hands trembled as she studied it. Why would he keep it all these years? Rafe sighed. Guilt. Or fear someone else would. A noise echoed from the corridor footsteps, steady and deliberate. Rafe's face went pale. That's security. You two never met at me, understood? He shoved the notebook into Jonah's hands. Take pictures and get out. They slipped through the side door and hurried toward the stairwell. Down below, the hum of the city swallowed them, but the weight of truth clung heavy. On the street, the black SUV was waiting again, headlights off. Maya ducked behind Jonah. A figure inside raised a phone and snapped a photo of them. Jonah muttered, they're documenting us now. Maya's phone buzzed unknown caller. She hesitated, then answered. Cassandra's voice purred through the line. Miss Alvarez, digging into the past can be dangerous. Let the dead stay buried. Before Maya could reply, the line went dead. Jonah grabbed her arm. We need to lay low, for tonight. They walked quickly toward St. Agnes Church, its warm light cutting through the rain. Inside, Father Tom looked up in recognition. Maya, he whispered, your mother prayed here every Thursday for mercy for a man named Victor. Maya's knees weakened. She knew he'd never come back, didn't she? Father Tom nodded sadly. But she also knew truth never stays buried forever. Thunder cracked again outside, but this time Maya didn't flinch. The storm wasn't coming, it was already here. Morning sunlight spilled across the Silverfinch diner, glinting off coffee pots and syrup bottles. Maya had barely slept. Every nerve in her body felt frayed, waiting for something she didn't know what. Around 10 a.m., a courier in a grey suit walked through the door, crisp envelope in hand. Delivery for Miss Maya Alvarez, he said. Denise, the head waitress, glanced at her warily. The envelope was cream-colored, embossed with the silver logo of Hallowell Systems. Inside was a typed letter on thick stationery. Dear Miss Alvarez, please accept this as a token of gratitude for your honesty. A check for $250,000 fluttered out, along with a non-disclosure agreement printed in tiny legal font. Maya's breath caught. This is hush money, she whispered. Denise crossed her arms. Don't even think about signing that thing. If you cash it, they'll own you. I wasn't planning to, Maya said, her voice trembling. But they know where I work now. Denise's eyes softened. That's what bullies do, sweetheart. They come dressed like gentlemen. The bell over the door jingled again, and every head turned. Cassandra Vale walked in, heels clicking against the tile, trenchcoat immaculate despite the drizzle outside. The billionaire's fiancé stood out like a diamond dropped in a gravel pit. Maya, Cassandra said smoothly, you've had quite an exciting week. Apparently, Maya replied, trying to sound steady. Cassandra smiled, sliding into a booth. You returned Victor's wallet. Very noble. But this curiosity of yours, it could create misunderstanding. Victor feels terrible about the confusion and wants to make it right. She tapped the envelope. That check is real, you know. $250,000 could change your life. Maya stared at her. It's not a gift, it's a muzzle. Cassandra tilted her head. Think of it as protection. The past isn't kind to people who dig too deep. Let it rest, and you can live comfortably. Denise stepped closer, her apron dusted with flour. Lady, you're standing in a restaurant where we work double shifts to pay rent. Don't come in here and pretend silence is kindness. Cassandra's icy gaze flicked toward her. And you are? Someone who knows a contract when I see one, Denise snapped. She's not signing anything today. Cassandra smiled again, thinner this time. Very well. She stood, smoothed her coat, and leaned close to Maya. Her perfume was sweet, but her tone was razor-sharp. I hope you realize what you're giving up. Not everyone who goes against Victor Hallowell stays standing. Maya forced herself to meet her eyes. Then he'll learn to run fast. Cassandra straightened, eyes narrowing. Just remember curiosity killed more than cats. With that, she left, heels echoing like gunshots. For a long moment, silence filled the diner. Denise exhaled. That woman gives frostbite. Maya opened the envelope again. The check gleamed beneath the fluorescent lights, the ink still drying. She thinks I can be bought. Denise smiled sadly. They always downtill. They meet someone who cannot be. After closing, Maya walked home through drizzle, clutching her mother's old scarf tight. But when she reached her apartment door, her stomach dropped. The lock was scratched. Inside, the place looked untouched except for her nightstand drawer. The photo scrap of her mother and baby Maya was gone. Her laptop pinged with security alerts, multiple failed logins from an unknown device. Her cloud backup had been accessed. She felt her chest tighten. Someone had been here, searching for proof she wasn't supposed to have. She sank onto the couch, staring at the empty drawer. Cassandra's warning echoed in her mind, each word like a drumbeat. They hadn't just offered to buy her silence. They were already trying to erase her. The next morning, Maya woke to the sound of sirens drifting through her apartment window. She hadn't slept. Her mind replayed every second of Cassandra's visit, every word like a splinter under her skin. The missing photo scrap haunted her. Someone had broken into her life, touched her things, and vanished like a ghost. She poured herself burnt coffee and tried to convince her shaking hands that she wasn't afraid. But she was. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jonah. Got something. Meet me at the cafe on 45th. Urgent. The cafe was quiet, filled with the smell of espresso and wet umbrellas. Jonah sat in the corner, dark circles under his eyes, laptop open. When Maya slid into the booth, he turned the screen toward her. It showed a scanned hospital record her birth certificate. I got this from a listener, he said. She's a retired midwife from a clinic in Sunset Park. Recognized the name Elena Alvarez. Maya's pulse quickened. That's my mom's handwriting on the signature line. Jonah nodded. But look here, father's name is blank, covered in whiteout. Under blacklight software, the imprint reads Victor H. before it cuts off. Maya's breath caught. It's real? As real as it gets, he said. Paper from that year. Same ink formula. The midwife mailed the original to me. She says a tall man with a laptop was there the night your mother gave birth. He signed some paperwork, then paid cash. Maya pressed her hand against her chest. He was there. My mother never told me. Jonah's eyes softened. Maybe she thought keeping it secret was safer for both of you. She looked out the window at the drizzle streaking the glass. He built an empire while pretending we never existed. Jonah leaned forward. Maya, listen. We have enough breadcrumbs to prove a connection, but not enough to stand up in court or media. We need a chain of custody, someone who worked that clinic, or old payrolls showing he funded it. Maya nodded slowly. Then we find them. They left the cafe and walked along Lexington Avenue. The city buzzed with indifferent life horns, taxis, and people with problems smaller than billionaires' lies. Halfway down the block, Jonah stopped. Look, he said quietly. Across the street, the black SUV idled again, wipers moving slowly, though no rain was falling. The same driver. They're following us, Maya whispered. Jonah took her elbow. Not us, you. They think I'm just press. He steered her into a bookstore, pretending to browse. You need protection, he said. Not cops they'd fold under pressure from Hallowell's lawyers. You need visibility. The more people who know, the harder you are to erase. Maya looked around the crowded shop. You mean, go public? Eventually, Jonah said. But not yet. First, we lock down every piece of proof they can't destroy. Back in her apartment that night, Maya sat by the window, scrolling through old voicemails from her mother. The last one was dated 2 weeks before Elena died. Her voice was weak but warm. Maya, don't chase shadows. If you ever find the truth, let it be because it came to you, not because you ran towards it. Tears stung Maya's eyes. Sorry, Mum, she whispered, but it's already here. Headlights flashed outside bright, blinding. The same SUV again, parked across the street. The silhouette of the driver was still, patient, waiting. Maya grabbed the Nikon Jonah had given her and snapped a photo through the curtain. The flash lit the darkness like lightning. The SUV's engine roared to life, speeding away. Her phone buzzed with a new message, no number, just words. Stop digging. Some graves are meant to stay closed. Maya stared at it, heart pounding, then whispered, Not this one. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of what she might find, only of how far Victor Hallowell would go to keep it buried. The invitation arrived in a gold-trimmed envelope slipped under Maya's apartment door. There was no return address, just embossed words. The Hallowell Foundation invites you to our annual charity luncheon at the Pierre Hotel. The handwriting on the envelope was neat, mechanical. Jonah studied it under his desk lamp. Cassandra, he muttered. She's not done with you. This isn't kindness, it's bait. Maya stared at the letter. Maybe it's time I stop running and ask him face to face. Jonah frowned. You want to confront him at a hotel filled with reporters and millionaires? Yes, Maya said, voice steady. He built his world on lies. Let's see how it looks when truth walks through the front door. With Denise's cousin working catering for the event, they borrowed uniforms, black suits, and name tags that read, Staff. The Pierre glowed like a palace under chandeliers, filled with laughter that smelled of champagne and money. The city's elite mingled around tables, dressed in white roses and gold cutlery. From the corner, Maya spotted him Victor Hallowell, perfectly composed in a navy suit, Cassandra at his side, smile polished for cameras. Behind him, a banner read, Children of Tomorrow Foundation. The irony almost made her laugh. Jonah whispered, This is it. Stick to the plan short, direct, no drama. Drama's already here, she said softly, walking toward the stage. Victor was finishing his speech about opportunity and compassion when she approached. "Excuse me, Mr. Hallowell." Her voice carried across the ballroom. Every head turned. Cassandra stiffened. Victor blinked, surprised. "Yes, can I help you?" "My name's Maya Alvarez," she said clearly. "My mother was Elena Alvarez." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Cassandra's perfect smile cracked. "Ms. Alvarez, this isn't the time." But Maya didn't stop. "You once told her she was family. You made her promises before you became the man on that stage. She believed you. She raised me alone while you erased us." Victor's composure slipped for just a second, a flicker of recognition. Then he forced a thin smile. "Many hard-working people have crossed my path, Miss Alvarez. I'm sorry for your loss." Maya's hands trembled. "You don't remember her?" She reached into her pocket and slid something onto the podium, a napkin folded neatly in half. Inside was the appointment slip for the DNA test she'd scheduled. One word scrawled in blue ink across the top. "Coward." Gasps filled the room. Cameras flashed. Cassandra stepped forward, voice tight but calm. "We'll be happy to handle this privately, of course." Lorraine Gray, an older woman seated near the fronter, senior editor for the New York Times, stood abruptly. "Privately? When a man spends millions preaching about family values?" She turned to Maya. "Elena who?" Cassandra's expression turned to stone. "This conversation is over, but the damage was done." Whispers swirled like wildfire, reporters scribbling, donors exchanging looks. Victor lowered his microphone. "Miss Alvarez," he said quietly, "you're making a scene that helps no one." "Truth isn't a scene," she replied. "It's a spotlight." Jonah, filming from the back, caught Cassandra's hand gripping Victor's arm, nails digging in like claws. The billionaire's face drained of color. "We'll discuss this elsewhere," he said finally. As they turned to leave, Maya caught Lorraine Gray's eye. The journalist pressed a business card into Maya's palm. "If they want you quiet," she whispered, "you should be loud." Later, outside the hotel, Jonah exhaled shakily. "You just threw a grenade into the richest room in Manhattan." Maya looked toward the glimmering skyline. Then maybe it's time something exploded. Her phone buzzed, a new message from an unknown number. It was a single sentence. "You don't belong in our world." Maya smiled faintly at the glowing screen. "Good," she whispered, "because I'm here to end it." Inside the Pierre, behind locked doors, Victor Hallowell's perfect world had just begun to crack, and the truth was finally leaking through. Rain misted through Central Park the next afternoon, soft and grey, wrapping the city in a quiet hum. After the chaos at the Pierre, Maya wanted nothing more than silence. The video of her confrontation had already leaked hashtags, think pieces, podcasts speculating if she was a liar or a secret heir. Jonah had tried to reach her all morning, and when he finally found her standing beneath Bethesda Terrace, she looked both fragile and fierce, like someone learning how to breathe again. "You're trending," he said gently. "Half the internet thinks you're his daughter. The other half thinks you're an actress." Maya laughed bitterly. "So I'm famous for being maybe real." Jonah stepped closer, rain dotting his jacket. "Hey, you did something brave yesterday. Most people would have taken the check and disappeared." "Brave or stupid?" she asked. He smiled. "Sometimes they're the same thing." They sat on the stone steps, watching the lake ripple under the drizzle. Maya's voice was quiet. "You think I made a mistake?" "I think you told the truth," Jonah said. "And the truth always starts a war, before it brings peace." She glanced at him, eyes tired but alive. "You talk like a preacher." He laughed softly. "No, just a guy who's seen too many people lose their soul trying to win." For a long moment, neither spoke. The city moved around them, tourists with umbrellas, children feeding pigeons, a violin echoing from the tunnel. Then Jonah reached out and brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. His touch was careful, hesitant. You don't have to fight this alone, Maya. She looked away, heart thudding. Why would you care? I'm just a story to you. Jonah shook his head. Not anymore. There was something in his tone, steady, real, that made her chest tighten. Jonah, I'm not saying this to complicate things, he said quickly. But somewhere between the first photo and that DNA envelope, I stopped seeing a headline. I started seeing you. The rain grew heavier, drumming against the terrace ceiling. Maya turned toward him. You know what happens to people who get close to me? They get hurt. Then he'll stay close enough to help, he said simply. She smiled through the ache in her chest. You're insane. Comes with the job. When he leaned in, the kiss was tentative, uncertain, but it was real. Warmth bloomed between them despite the cold rain. For a moment, everything Victor, Cassandra. The threats faded into nothing. There was only this. Two people on a stone terrace, hearts pounding in sync, finding something true in a world full of lies. Then a shadow moved beyond the archway. Jonah pulled back, instantly alert. A man in a black coat stood across the walkway, holding an umbrella perfectly still. His face was half hidden, but Maya recognized him, the same security guard from Victor's Tesla. Jonah's jaw tightened. They're still watching. Maya felt her pulse quicken. Then we give them something to watch. He grabbed his camera, snapping a photo through the rain. The flash lit the guard's face for a split second before he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Jonah lowered the camera. Got him. Maya exhaled shakily. We can't keep playing defense, Jonah. I know, he said. That's why we start gathering people. Witnesses, workers, anyone Victor used and threw away. And then? She asked. Then we make it public, not just gossip-proof. The rain softened again, fading into mist. Maya looked toward the skyline glimmering through the fog. If we fail, they'll destroy us. Jonah's hand found hers. Then we fail loud enough that the world hears it. As thunder rolled over the park, Maya realized something terrifying and beautiful. She wasn't alone anymore. And that meant Victor Hallowell had finally made a real mistake. The next night, Jonah texted one sentence that made Maya's pulse race. Rafe found something. They met behind a food truck near Grand Central, rain turning the pavement into mirrors. Rafe looked around nervously before speaking. There's a floor in Hallowell Tower nobody talks about. Not on the directory, not on the elevator buttons, only his private card works there. Back when I cleaned for him, it was called the Beta Lab. If Elena worked anywhere in that building, it was there. Maya frowned. What's inside? Rafe shrugged. No one knows. Cameras stop working the moment that elevator opens, but I kept something, a keycard from those days. Half broken, still coded to the garage level. Victor told me to destroy it. I didn't. He handed them the scuffed silver card. On the back, faint handwriting read, First day, Victor. Maya's breath caught. The same words from the photo. Yeah, Rafe said. She must have written it. He used to call that lab his first real home. Jonah pocketed the card. Then that's where the story lives. The following evening, disguised as cleaning staff, they entered one Vanderbilt with stolen badges and confidence they didn't feel. The lobby gleamed like a cathedral to money marble floors, chrome elevators, art worth more than houses. Maya's heart hammered as the elevator climbed. She pressed the garage button, then slid Rafe's keycard through the reader. For a second, nothing happened. Then a soft beep and a hidden panel lit up. Level Beta. Jonah's eyebrows shot up. Holy hell. It's real. The doors opened into silence. No hum of computers, no footsteps, just dust, stale air, and the faint smell of paint. The lights flickered to the life, one by one, revealing a vast, empty workspace lined with old servers and whiteboards. On the far wall hung faded posters. Hallowell Systems Building, the future. Maya ran her fingers along a workstation label. Elena A. Her throat tightened. She was here. Jonah took out his camera, snapping photos. Everything's frozen in time, like they walked out and sealed it up. On one table lay a stack of folders. Inside were sketches, code printouts, and receipts. One was for a stroller purchase from 2000, billed to V. Hallowell. Another listed employee meals. Elena, lunch stipend. Proof, Jonah whispered. He paid her through the company. Before Maya could respond, a low hum filled the air, the elevator. Someone was coming. They ducked behind a partition as the doors slid open. Cassandra stepped out, heels clicking softly, phone pressed to her ear. Yes, she said sharply. They were spotted near Grand Central. I'll handle it. She moved across the room, scanning surfaces. No, there's no need for Victor to know. Not yet. Jonah raised his camera and quietly clicked once. The flash was off, but the shutter sound echoed faintly. Cassandra froze. Her eyes swept the room. Hello? She called. Maya held her breath. Jonah's hand brushed hers, steadying her. Cassandra's footsteps came closer. Then her phone rang again, pulling her attention away. Under control, she hissed into it, turning back toward the elevator. The doors closed behind her, sealing the silence again. They exhaled in unison. That was too close, Jonah said. Maya picked up the folder she'd found and tucked it inside her jacket. She said, Victor doesn't know. That means she's hiding things even from him. Jonah nodded. Which means we're not just fighting a billionaire, we're fighting the woman who keeps his skeletons buried. As they exited through the stairwell, Maya glanced back at the empty lab. Dust danced in the flickering light, like ghosts moving through memory. Down on the street, she turned to Jonah. We're not running anymore. Next time, we bring the whole truth into daylight. He smiled grimly. Daylight's expensive in this city. Then we make them pay for it, she said. Behind them, on the sealed floor, one computer screen flickered on by itself, displaying an old photo of Eleanor and baby Maya labeled Prototype 1. By dawn, the photo from the secret lab, Elena holding baby Maya beside the Prototype 1 sign, was on Jonah's computer screen. The fluorescent light in his small apartment buzzed overhead. If this goes public, he said quietly, it could shake one of the biggest tech firms in America. Maya sat at his kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket. Or bury me alive. Jonah leaned back, rubbing his temples. The question isn't if we share it. It's how. Once we do, we can't undo it. Hallowell's lawyers will shred you. Cassandra will go after your job, your name, everything. Maya looked out the window. The sun was rising over Manhattan, painting the buildings gold. They already took everything, she said softly. All that's left is the truth. Jonah smiled sadly. You sound like your mum. She turned to him. You never met her. I didn't have to, he said. You talk about her like someone who taught you how to survive a world that eats people whole. Before Maya could answer, his phone buzzed. A private number. Jonah frowned and put it on speaker. A calm, professional voice said, Mr. Reed, this is His Cassandra Vale. You've been quite busy. I'd advise you to remember that libel has consequences. Jonah smirked. Funny. I was just thinking the same about lying under oath. Cassandra's tone sharpened. Delete whatever you think you found. If this goes public, it won't just be her reputation destroyed, it'll be yours. Careers burn faster than you think. Then light the match, he said, hanging up. Maya exhaled. She's not bluffing. No, Jonah agreed. But she's scared. They met later that afternoon with Lorraine Gray, the senior editor from the New York Times, who had slipped Maya her card at the Pierre. Lorraine listened quietly as they showed her the lab photos, the receipts, and the birth certificate. When they finished, she folded her hands. You're holding fire, she said. If we publish, The world will believe you, or it'll tear you apart. Either way, it'll never be the same. Maya nodded. Then at least it'll be real. Lorraine studied her. What do you want, Maya? Money? Recognition? I want him to say her name, Maya whispered. Just once, in public, so my mother can finally rest. Lorraine's eyes softened. Then you need allies who can't be bought. She scribbled an address on a card. Go to Columbia's Law Clinic, speak to Professor Grant. He specializes in whistleblower protection. If Cassandra's threatening you, that's your first defense. That night, the smear campaign began. Anonymous accounts flooded Twitter. Maya Alvarez fraud, con artist, waitress turned scammer. Her photos from Silver Finch appeared with cruel captions. A gossip blog posted a fake story claiming she'd extorted Victor Hallowell. By morning, reporters were outside the diner. Denise blocked the door like a soldier, shouting, "We stand with Maya!" She even changed the day's special to the Truth Sandwich. Customers showed up anyway, construction workers, nurses, delivery drivers. They left bigger tips than ever before. One woman whispered to Maya, "My boss never claimed his own kid either. Don't let him win." Maya smiled faintly. "I won't." But when she got home, a different kind of silence greeted her. Her power was out. The fridge hummed dead. A white envelope lay taped to the door, no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid, Maya and Jonah leaving Lorraine's office, circled in red ink. Beneath it, someone had written, "You're running out of time." Jonah showed up minutes later, pale but determined. "They're tightening the net. We need to move fast." "Then let's finish this," Maya said. "No more hiding." Outside, camera flashes popped through the dark like lightning proof that the story was no longer just theirs. It was out there now, and there was no way back. The air inside Maya's apartment smelled faintly of burnt toast, though she hadn't eaten in hours. It was almost 3 a.m. when the fire alarm screamed to life, jolting her upright. The hallway filled with chaos neighbors coughing, feet pounding down the stairs. She grabbed her phone, keys, and the small lockbox that held the birth certificate copy before rushing outside into the icy dark. Fire trucks arrived minutes later, lights slicing through the night. But when the smoke cleared, there was no fire, just a pan on a stove in an empty apartment across the hall. Still, something felt wrong. When she returned, her door hung slightly open. "Jonah?" she called softly, but only silence answered. Her pulse pounded as she stepped inside. Nothing seemed stolen. The drawers were closed, her laptop still on the table. But in the kitchen sink sat a manila folder, weighted by a glass of water. Maya's stomach knotted. Someone had been here and left her something. She pulled the folder out carefully. Inside were several printed emails, dated between 1999 and 2000. The sender line read, victor@eul.com. The recipient was simply EA. The subject of the first email, the baby. She read slowly, her hands shaking. "Don't tell anyone yet. Series A investors are on edge. They can't know about the baby until after closing. We'll find a better apartment once the funding clears. I promise." Another email followed days later. "I can't think straight with you gone. Keep her off the ledger. I'll fix this once we go public." Tears blurred Maya's vision. These weren't corporate emails, they were confessions. Jonah arrived minutes later, his hair damp from rain, camera bag slung over his shoulder. She showed him the papers without a word. He scanned them quickly. "Holy hell," he muttered. "These are real headers. You can't fake metadata like this. Whoever dropped this knew what they were doing." "Maybe Rafe?" she asked. He shook his head. "Too risky for him. Whoever it was wants the truth out, but not tied to them." Maya sat down heavily. He kept saying, "Keep her off the ledger." What does that mean? "It's corporate slang," Jonah explained. A ledger is an internal registry, early employees, equity holders. If Eleanor was helping him in that garage, she might have been entitled to stock options. He erased her name to protect his empire. Maya pressed the folder to her chest. He didn't just hide me. He stole her life. Jonah crouched beside her. We can use this. The timestamps, the sender domain, it's enough to verify. She nodded, swallowing her tears. Then let's trace it. They spent the next hour tracking the email headers through archived servers. Jonah's fingers flew across the keyboard until he froze. There's a reference here, he said slowly. An address in Brooklyn, Van Brunt Street. It's labeled garage. Maya frowned. The same garage my mother mentioned in her notes. Jonah smiled grimly. The one she called home before everything broke. He printed the metadata, slipping it into his camera bag. If we find that place, we'll find proof she worked beside him. Outside, dawn crept over the skyline. Maya stood by the window, watching steam rise from the streets. Her phone buzzed with a new voicemail-blocked number. Maya? Cassandra's smooth voice purred. Still chasing ghosts? You're clever, I'll admit. But cleverness has a shelf life. Ask yourself who benefits if you keep digging. It's not you. Jonah deleted it before she could reply. She's losing control, he said. That's why she's desperate. Maya looked down at the folder again, fingers tracing the faded ink. If she's desperate, it means we're close. Jonah met her eyes. Then tomorrow, we go to Van Brunt Street. Outside, the city stirred awake, unaware that somewhere in Brooklyn lay a forgotten garage, and inside it, the truth that could finally burn Victor Hallowell's empire to the ground. Van Brunt Street lay quiet beneath a bruised Brooklyn sky, the kind of silence that felt earned after years of noise. Old warehouses lined the block like forgotten soldiers, their paint peeled and windows clouded. Jonah parked 2 streets away, killing the headlights. That's it, he said, pointing to a corrugated door tagged with faded graffiti Hallowell Systems prototype lab. Maya stared through the windshield. So this is where it started? Jonah nodded. Where he built his empire, and where your mother disappeared from the story. They slipped through a side entrance Rafe had told them about, a narrow door rusted at the hinge. Inside, the air was thick with dust and memory. Broken monitors, yellowed schematics, and empty coffee cups littered the tables. A tarp-covered workstation stood near the back, illuminated by thin stripes of morning light. Maya's fingers brushed over a stack of paper. Receipts from Gristades, dated 2000 formula, diapers, baby wipes, each one signed with the initials VH. Jonah crouched beside her, lifting a folder from the pile. Payroll logs, he murmured. Look, Elena Alvarez, listed under independent contractor. Paid in cash. Maya's heart thudded. He paid her secretly. Off the books. Jonah flipped through the folder, finding another document, a handwritten note stapled to the last page. Keep this quiet until we incorporate. She insists on signing her real name. You'll fix it later. He looked up. He was already planning to erase her. The sound of dripping water echoed in the space. Maya walked toward the far corner, where a child's blanket lay folded beneath a dusty cot. On the wall above it, faded words written in blue marker read, "We made it to morning." Her throat closed. She wrote that, she whispered. Mum used to say those words when I was sick. Every time I woke up crying, she'd whisper, "We made it to morning." Jonah's camera clicked softly as he took a photo. This is more than proof. It's her voice. Maya turned to a metal cabinet against the wall. Its lock was broken, but inside she found a sealed envelope marked Elena Personal. The handwriting was unmistakable, Victor's. She tore it open carefully. Inside was a single Polaroid. Victor sat in a beach chair, asleep, with a baby resting on his chest. Eleanor's reflection showed faintly in the cracked mirror behind them, camera in hand. On the back of the photo were 3 words, "We did it." Maya's breath hitched. He loved her once. Maybe, Jonah said. But he loved power more. Before they could say another word, the distant rumble of an engine reached them. Jonah peeked through a window. "Black SUV," he hissed. "Same one from before." Maya's pulse spiked. "They found us." Jonah grabbed the documents, stuffing them into his bag. The garage door creaked slow, deliberate. 2 men in suits stepped inside, their eyes hidden behind mirrored glasses. "Miss Alvarez," one said calmly, "Mr. Hallowell requests that you hand over what you've taken." "Tell him to come get it himself," Maya shot back. "Let's not make this unpleasant," the other replied. But before either man could move, a woman's voice echoed from behind them. "That's enough." Cassandra stepped into the light, holding an umbrella, though the roof kept out the rain. Her expression was cold, surgical. "You're trespassing, Maya. This property belongs to Hallowell Systems." "This was my mother's home," Maya said, trembling with anger. "You can't own that." Cassandra's lips curved. "Everything here belongs to the company. Even the truth." Jonah raised his phone, snapping a picture. "Smile, Cassandra. You're on record." Her composure cracked for a split second. "You think your little recordings will matter?" "Only if we're dead," he said. "And if we are, they'll still go public." Cassandra's eyes narrowed. She turned on her heel. "Enjoy your rebellion," she said softly. "It won't last." As her SUV roared away, Maya stood trembling amid the dust and silence. Jonah placed a hand on her shoulder. "We've got enough now." "Real evidence." Maya looked at the Polaroid, her voice steady. "Then it's time the world sees what he buried." Outside, dawn spilled over Brooklyn like fire, lighting up the words on the wall. We made it to morning. For the first time, Maya believed it. By the time Maya and Jonah reached the street, thunder was rolling over Brooklyn like an angry drum. They ducked under the awning of an abandoned bodega as fat drops of rain began to fall. Jonah's backpack was soaked, filled with copies of the receipts, payroll logs, and the Polaroid. "We need to scan everything before we lose it to the weather," he said, catching his breath. But before they could move, headlights flashed from the corner. The black SUV against, patient, unstoppable. "Here we go," Jonah muttered. The back door opened, and Cassandra stepped out, perfectly dry under her umbrella. She looked untouched by the storm, a statue of power in heels. "You've made this much harder than it had to be," she said. "Victor wanted discretion. I wanted mercy. But you," her gaze fixed on Maya, "you want war." Maya stood tall despite the rain soaking through her jacket. "I just want the truth." Cassandra smiled thinly. "Then here's some truth. The world doesn't care about waitresses and dead mothers. You can't win this." Jonah stepped between them. "You're wrong. We already have enough to bury him." Cassandra tilted her head. "Do you really think anyone will believe 2 nobodies with a story against a billionaire? I could make you vanish with a single phone call." Maya's fists clenched. "Then make it." Thunder cracked above them. Cassandra's smile faltered. "You think this is bravery? It's stupidity." "Take the offer." She gestured to the SUV, where a man inside held a slim briefcase. $500,000, cash. You walk away, and this entire nightmare ends. No one gets hurt. You can start over. For a moment, the sound of the rain drowned everything else. The briefcase gleamed faintly under the streetlight. $500,000 more than enough to pay off her mother's medical debts, more than enough to disappear. Jonah looked at her, eyes searching. "Maya," he whispered, "whatever you decide, I'm with you." She thought of her mother working night shifts, of the photograph torn in half, of Victor's cold denial, and she thought of the words scrawled on the garage wall. "We made it to morning." Maya took a step forward until she was inches from Cassandra. "You're right about one thing," she said softly. "The world doesn't care about waitresses and dead mothers. But it will." Cassandra's jaw tightened. Then you leave me no choice. She nodded to the men in suits. They stepped forward, but before they could act, a voice shouted from across the street. Hey, what's going on here? A man with a phone was live streaming, rain dripping down his cap. Is that Cassandra Vale, Hallowell's PR queen? Cassandra froze. Turn that off. The man laughed. You threatening a waitress on camera. Internet's gonna love this. Within seconds, the scene changed. Bystanders pulled out their phones, flashes of light cutting through the rain. Cassandra's face hardened. Enjoy your 15 minutes, she hissed. They won't save you. She turned, snapping her umbrella shut as she slid back into the SUV. The vehicle sped off into the night. Jonah grinned, water dripping from his hair. That live stream just made you untouchable. Maya shook her head, shivering. No, it made them desperate. They stood there for a long moment, rain washing away the tension. Jonah took her hand, fingers cold but steady. You could have taken the money, he said quietly. My mom used to say, if you sell your silence, it's never quiet again, Maya replied. I'd rather live broke than haunted. He smiled. Then let's make some noise. Lightning streaked across the sky, and in that instant, Maya felt something shift. The fear that had followed her for weeks burned away, leaving only resolve. The storm was no longer chasing her. She was walking straight into it. And this time, she wasn't alone. 3 days after the confrontation in the rain, a grey envelope arrived at Jonah's apartment. No return address, just the initials VH printed in thick, deliberate ink. Maya stared at it like it might explode. Do you think it's real? She whispered. Jonah turned it over carefully. It came by courier, same as Hallowell's private legal correspondence. My guess, he finally wants proof. They took it to Lorraine Gray's office at the New York Times. The editor's assistant sealed it inside a transparent evidence bag. Chain of custody starts now, Lorraine said, signing the label. If this is a DNA sample, we'll have the test done privately offshore. No leaks. Maya nodded, trying to steady her breath. If he sent this himself, why not just admit it publicly? Because denial is power, Lorraine said. Admitting guilt is surrender. He's giving you just enough to keep quiet. Jonah crossed his arms. Then we don't keep quiet. Lorraine smiled slightly. Good answer. The courier returned with a second package an hour later, sealed lab forms, a signed authorization card, and a note in Victor's handwriting. For her peace of mind, no public statement will follow. Maya stared at the words. Peace of mind, she muttered. That man wouldn't know peace if it hit him in the face. The following morning, they met at a discreet lab Lorraine had arranged in Midtown. A technician in a white coat received the sealed envelope, scanned barcodes, and escorted them into a waiting room. Jonah sat beside her, scrolling his phone nervously. You sure you want to do this? Maya nodded. I've wanted the truth my whole life. I'm not stopping now. The technician reappeared 15 minutes later, carrying a clipboard. Both samples are in the system, he said. Turn around in 48 hours. Maya nodded again, voice trembling. Thank you. They spent the next 2 days in limbo. Jonah buried himself in editing audio for his next podcast episode. Maya found herself sitting in St. Agnes Church, the one her mother used to visit. The light through the stained glass painted her hands blue and gold. Father Tom approached quietly. You've been coming here every day, child, waiting for something? Waiting for a name, she said. He nodded. Names have power. Sometimes the people who hide them forget that. When Sunday came, her phone rang just after dawn. The caller ID read, Private lab results. She answered with shaking hands. Miss Alvarez, said the neutral voice on the line, we have your report. The probability of paternity is 97%. The world went still. Thank you, she whispered, hanging up. Tears blurred her eyes as the phone slipped from her hand. Jonah caught it before it hit the floor. It's him, she said, her voice breaking. It's really him. Jonah pulled her into a hug, his shirt damp from her tears. Then it's over, he said softly. No, she whispered. It's just beginning. They took the printed report to Lorraine, who stared at it for a long time before speaking. This changes everything. But you need to be smart. If you drop this now, it'll vanish under a pile of lawsuits. We plan, we control the release. Jonah nodded. Well, do it on our terms. Lorraine folded the papers. Then we build the stage. The Met Galas next week. Every major outlet. Every camera. If he's going to lie again, hell do it there. You'll be ready. Maya swallowed hard. You really think I can face him again? Lorraine smiled. You already did once, and you didn't flinch. That night, Maya stood by her apartment window, watching the city glow beneath her. Somewhere out there, Victor Hallowell was probably sipping his expensive whiskey, believing he still controlled the narrative. But not for long, because in 48 hours, the world would know the truth, and this time, his name would stand beside hers. The night of the Met Gala shimmered over New York, like a fever dream. Black limousines gliding down Fifth Avenue, flashbulbs bursting like fireworks. For once, Maya Alvarez wasn't watching from the sidewalks. She was walking among them, disguised as press. Lorraine Gray had pulled strings, handing her and Jonah press wristbands for the New York Times online feature team. Blend in, Lorraine warned. No drama until the moment counts. Maya's hands trembled as she adjusted the camera strap around her neck. Jonah gave her a reassuring nod. Just breathe. You've got truth in your pocket. That's more powerful than their money. Inside the Metropolitan Museum, marble floors gleamed beneath gowns worth more than her mother's entire lifetime of wages. The after-party hummed with champagne laughter and secrets dressed in designer fabric. Then she saw him. Victor Hallowell. The billionaire stood near the Rodin sculptures, tuxedo perfect, smile rehearsed for 1,000 cameras. Cassandra was beside him, though the warmth between them had thinned to something brittle. Lorraine's voice crackled softly in Maya's earpiece. Wait for your moment. He's scheduled for an interview with Vogue Live in 5 minutes. Get close. Maya's pulse thundered. She moved through the crowd, blending with photographers until she stood just a few feet away. Victor turned slightly and froze. His eyes met hers. Recognition flickered, followed by something colder. Calculation. Maya, he said softly, stepping toward her, his voice drowned beneath the music. We don't need to do this here. Yes, we do, she said. This is where you hide in front of everyone. He exhaled. I sent you the DNA results. I acknowledged the truth privately. Isn't that enough? Not for my mother, she said. She died whispering your name like a prayer that never came true. Cassandra appeared, her voice clipped. Maya, this is a high-profile event. Let's not embarrass ourselves. Jonah lifted his camera. Embarrassment isn't the word. Accountability is. Victor's mask cracked for an instant. You're both children playing with fire. Maya reached into her bag and pulled out the Polaroid from the Van Brunt garage. This is you, she said, her voice trembling but clear. You held me. You called me your meteor. My mother took this the day before you erased us. Gasps rippled around them. Cassandra's hand shot out, trying to snatch the photo, but Jonah stepped between them. Touch her again, and you'll be explaining yourself to half the press in this room. Reporters turned. Cameras pivoted. The attention shifted like a wave. Victor's jaw tightened. You don't understand what you're doing. No, Maya said, her voice steady now. I understand, exactly. You built your company on lies, and you buried the woman who helped you build it. You can't hide behind your money anymore. Lorraine moved in, subtly, signaling a cameraman from the Times. The microphone appeared, red light blinking. "Mr. Hallowell," the reporter said, "is this woman your daughter?" The billionaire hesitated. In the flash of cameras, he looked suddenly smaller, older, human. Cassandra hissed, "Say nothing, legal's watching." But Victor's voice broke through the noise, rough and uneven. "She's my blood," he said finally, "and I failed her mother." The room went silent. Flashbulbs exploded. Cassandra's face went white. Lorraine's voice came through Maya's earpiece again. "Got it. We're alive." Maya swallowed hard, her heart racing. "That's all I ever needed," she whispered. Victor's eyes softened. "You've destroyed everything I built." "No," she said. "I just reminded you who built it with you." Jonah took her hand, leading her out of the crowd as reporters swarmed. The music had stopped, replaced by the rising storm of questions. Outside on the museum steps, the night air felt sharp and clean. Jonah laughed under his breath. "You realize you just detonated a billionaire's legacy on live TV?" Maya exhaled shakily. "Good. Maybe now the world will remember her name, too." Inside, under the blinding lights, Victor Hallowell stood alone for the first time, his empire cracking beneath the weight of truth. The morning after the Met Gala, New York woke to chaos. Every major outlet ran the same headline: "Victor Hallowell acknowledges secret daughter live at Met Gala." Stock tickers scrolled red. Hallowell Systems lost nearly $4 billion in value before the market even opened. Reporters camped outside the company tower, their microphones like buyers pointed at the glass. Inside, on the top floor, the air was thick with fear and money. The board of directors sat around a long walnut table, a row of men and women in tailored suits who'd made their fortunes betting on Victor's genius. Now they were watching it bleed. Victor entered, shoulders squared, eyes hollow. Cassandra followed a few steps behind, pretending not to notice that every gaze in the room cut through her like a knife. "Let's get this over with," Victor said, his voice rough. Lorraine Gray was there too, invited as a neutral observer, though everyone knew she wasn't neutral. Beside her sat Maya, dressed simply but compassed, and Jonah, holding a small digital recorder. Across the table, Victor's general counsel cleared his throat. "Mr. Hallowell, the board has requested this emergency session to address reputational and fiduciary fallout. The company needs a path forward." "Path forward?" Lorraine repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Try accountability." Victor glared at her. "This is a corporate meeting, Ms. Gray. This is about a human being you erased," she countered. "That's bigger than your quarterly earnings." Jonah leaned forward. "We have emails, payroll logs, and photos proving Eleanor Alvarez worked in your prototype lab without acknowledgement. That's not just a family matter, it's corporate fraud." Cassandra cut in sharply. "You're twisting the narrative. Those documents are unverified." "They're authenticated," Lorraine interrupted, "by our digital forensics team. Every timestamp lines up with your funding round in 2000. The board murmured. One director, a silver-haired man named Patel, cleared his throat. "Mr. Hallowell, the optics are catastrophic. Investors are demanding transparency." Victor looked tired, older than he'd ever appeared. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "A public apology? A settlement?" Maya met his gaze. "I don't want your money. I want my mother's name on the record. She helped you build your first prototype, and you stole her work. Create a fund in her honor for housekeepers, cleaners, all the workers who kept you afloat when you were just an idea and a dream." Victor's jaw tightened. "You think this will fix anything?" "It'll fix the truth," she said softly. Cassandra scoffed. "You're being manipulated. She doesn't care about justice. She wants fame." Maya's voice stayed calm. "If I wanted fame, I would have sold my story to a tabloid months ago. I want dignity for her, and for everyone you made invisible." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Lorraine slid a document across the table. The Elena Alvarez Foundation, endowed by Hallowell Systems, audited by independent trustees. It's already drafted. All it needs is his signature. Victor stared at it. The silence felt like a held breath. Finally, he reached for a pen. "I'll sign it," he said. "But not as guilt, as gratitude." Cassandra's composure cracked. "Victor, don't. You're admitting liability." He turned to her, eyes cold. "No, I'm admitting truth," he signed. Cameras from the Times clicked softly from the corner. The board exhaled, some in relief, some in disbelief. Lorraine stood, gathering the papers. "History just shifted, gentlemen. Congratulations, you finally did something decent." Maya rose too, her heart pounding. Victor didn't look at her as she left, but when she reached the door, his voice stopped her. "Your mother used to say I worked too much," he said quietly. "She was right." Maya turned back. "She just wanted you to show up." Victor nodded once, eyes wet but unbroken. Outside the glass tower, cameras waited, but for the first time, Maya wasn't afraid of the flash. The truth was no longer hiding in shadows. It was printed in ink, signed in full. 2 days after the boardroom showdown, the world looked different. Newspapers plastered Victor's face beside Maya's. The headlines split between outrage and awe. "Billionaire's hidden daughter, forces reckoning at Hallowell Systems." The stock rebounded slightly, apparently. Redemption sold better than scandal. But for Maya, the noise outside didn't matter. Inside, the silence of truth felt sacred. At Silver Finch, customers packed the diner like pilgrims. Strangers came not to gawk, but to thank her. Denise stood behind the counter, running the chaos with military grace. "Guess all it takes to fix business is a billionaire's confession," she joked, handing Maya a tray. Maya smiled, tired but lighter. "Let's keep the focus on the pie, not the headlines." The bell above the door jingled. A woman stepped in mid-50s, wearing a faded housekeeper's uniform, wrists scarred from years of burns. She hesitated before approaching. "You're Maya, right?" "Yes, ma'am." The woman's eyes softened. "I worked with your mother at the Midtown Hilton. She used to sneak extra coffee for us, said we deserved more than leftovers. She always talked about you, her little meteor." Maya's breath caught. "She called me that when I was little. She said you'd bring light into dark places," the woman whispered. She was right. The words cracked something open inside her. Maya turned away, pretending to adjust plates so no one would see her tears. That night, after closing, Jonah stopped by with 2 coffees. "You okay?" he asked, sliding into the booth across from her. She nodded slowly. "It's strange. Everyone keeps thanking me, but all I did was tell the truth." He smiled. "That's usually the hardest thing to do." On the TV mounted in the corner, a news anchor spoke about the Elena Alvarez Foundation, officially launched that morning. Footage showed Victor at a small ceremony in the Hallowell Systems atrium, reading from a statement. "This fund honors the unseen hands that build empires, the ones history forgets." Maya watched, silent. When the camera panned to him, she saw the glint of something unfamiliar in his eyes, humility. "Do you believe him?" she asked softly. Jonah shrugged. "I believe guilt can grow into decency if you water it long enough." She laughed quietly. "That sounds like something my mom would have said." Later, after Jonah left, Maya walked home alone. The city glowed beneath the drizzle, streetlights painting halos on wet pavement. Outside St. Agnes Church, Father Tom stood locking the doors. "You did it, child," he said with a smile. "No," she replied. "She did. I just carried her story." He nodded, touching the small silver cross around his neck. "Then maybe it's time to let her rest." Inside the church, a wooden plaque leaned against the altar, engraved words, "The Elena Alvarez Fund for Workers' Dignity." Father Tom had promised to bless it before its installation at the foundation headquarters. Maya brushed her fingers over the lettering. She would have liked this, she whispered. She'd be proud of the daughter who made it happen, Father Tom said. She closed her eyes, remembering her mother's laughter, her calloused hands, her voice saying, "One day, you'll understand mercy isn't weakness, it's power." The door creaked open behind her. Rafe entered, carrying a wrapped object. "Got something for you," he said, handing it over. She unwrapped it carefully, a photograph of Eleanor framed under glass, her eyes full of warmth. "Found it in the old security office. Thought it belonged with you." Maya smiled through tears. "Thank you, Rafe." He nodded, heading for the door. "You gave us all a bit of justice, kid. Don't forget to enjoy it." Alone, Maya placed the frame on the church steps and lit a single candle beside it. The flame wavered, reflected in the polished glass like a heartbeat. For the first time in her life, Maya didn't feel like she was chasing ghosts. The scar her mother left wasn't a wound anymore, it was mercy made visible. The week after the Foundation's launch, Victor Hallowell began rebuilding his public image, one interview at a time. His PR team spun headlines about redemption, family, and social responsibility. But one person had vanished completely from those narratives, Cassandra Vale. The woman who once controlled every word he said had gone silent. Maya noticed the shift first. "Where's Cassandra?" she asked Jonah as they scanned the latest newsfeed. "She hasn't been photographed since the board meeting." Jonah smirked. "When sharks smell blood, they eat their own. She's either hiding or plotting." He wasn't wrong. 2 nights later, Cassandra called Jonah directly. Her voice was smooth, controlled, but something inside it trembled. "Jonah Reed," she said, "you think you've won, but you have no idea how deep this goes. You want a quote for your podcast? Here it is, everyone lies." Jonah leaned back in his chair. "Even you?" "Especially me," she replied. "Meet me at the old pier by Battery Park. Midnight. No cameras." Against better judgment, they went. The night air smelled of salt and exhaust, the East River glittering under the city's glow. Cassandra waited by the railing, her hair loose, her eyes shadowed with sleeplessness. She wasn't the unshakable PR queen anymore. She looked human. "You brought her," she said when she saw Maya. "Good. You both deserve to hear the truth." Maya crossed her arms. "You threatened me. You broke into my apartment. You tried to buy my silence. Why should I believe a word you say?" "Because I'm tired," Cassandra said simply. "And because Victor isn't the only one with blood on his hands." She pulled a flash drive from her pocket, holding it between 2 fingers. "Every cover-up, every hush payment, every name we erase, it's all here. Emails, bank transfers, surveillance reports. I kept copies in case he ever turned on me." Jonah frowned. "Why give this to us now?" "Because he already did," she said with a bitter laugh. "After your little truth show, he needed a scapegoat. The board forced my resignation. My accounts are frozen." He cut me off completely. "You're just angry he picked his conscience over you," Maya said. Cassandra's smile was cold. "Maybe. Or maybe I finally realized I built monsters and called it loyalty." She tossed the flash drive toward Jonah. "Do what you want with it. It'll destroy him completely. Or save him, if he's smart enough to use it." Maya stared at her. "And what about you?" "I'm done," Cassandra said quietly. "I used to think control was power. Turns out, it's just fear with better makeup." A sudden sound broke the tension. Footsteps, heavy and fast. 2 men in security uniforms appeared from the shadows. "Miss Vale," one called. "Company property. You're coming with us." Cassandra's face went pale. "Victor sent them," she whispered. "He doesn't want me talking." Jonah grabbed Maya's hand. "Run!" They bolted down the pier, rain starting to fall in sheets. Cassandra turned toward the guards, yelling, "You'll never silence all of us!" One guard lunged. She twisted away, sending his phone splashing into the river. Then she ran the other direction, vanishing into the storm. By the time Jonah and Maya reached safety, Cassandra was gone. The guards searched the water, but no one found her that night or the next. Back at Jonah's apartment, they plugged in the flash drive. Folders popped up. Payments, suppression orders, employee files. One audio file was labeled Garage. Jonah pressed play. Victor's voice echoed through the speakers. "Elena, please. Just until the investors sign. I swear, we'll make it right." Then silence. Maya's throat tightened. "He used her," she whispered. Jonah nodded grimly, and Cassandra kept every receipt. Maya closed her eyes. Then maybe her last act wasn't cruelty. Maybe it was mercy. Outside, thunder rolled over the city again, but this time it wasn't a warning. It was a reckoning, and for the first time, the powerful were the ones who had to run. A week after Cassandra vanished, New York was still buzzing. The flash drive she'd handed over had detonated like a bomb. Lorraine's investigative team at the Times confirmed everything: bribed witnesses, falsified records, and hush payments spanning 20 years. The board of Hallowell Systems forced Victor to step down as CEO pending review. The media called it the biggest corporate reckoning since Enron. Maya should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt empty. She sat on a park bench in Central Park, the same one her mother had taken her to when she was little. The trees were turning gold, the air crisp with early autumn. Jonah was in D.C., taping an Expos special, but she didn't mind being alone. For once, silence didn't feel dangerous. Then she saw him. Victor Hallowell approached slowly. No bodyguards, no cameras, just an aging man in a wool coat. He looked smaller, humbled. The city that once bent around him barely noticed him now. "Maya," he said quietly, "thank you for meeting me." She hadn't agreed to this meeting. The note had simply arrived that morning, slipped under her door. One conversation. No lawyers. "Please." "I almost didn't come," she said. "I wouldn't have blamed you if you hadn't," he admitted. He looked around the park, then gestured to the bench. "May I sit?" She nodded. For a moment, neither spoke. Pigeons scattered near their feet, and the hum of distant traffic filled the pause. Finally, Victor exhaled. "I've lost everything I thought mattered. My company, my reputation, my future. But that's not why I asked you here." "Then why?" "Because I owe you the truth. All of it." He clasped his hands, the way he did during press conferences, but this time his voice cracked. "When your mother told me she was pregnant, I panicked. My investors warned me a scandal would kill the deal. I told her to wait, to stay quiet. I thought I'd fix it later. But later became a habit. And then she was gone." Maya's throat tightened. "You left her to raise me alone. I told myself it'd send money, help in secret. But it was never enough. Every year that passed made the truth harder to face. And by the time I looked for her again, she was sick. Cassandra convinced me that going public would only hurt her reputation. I listened. I always listened to the wrong people." Tears welled in his eyes. "I can't undo what I did, but I can give something back." He reached into his coat and handed her a folded document. It was a property deed, the Coney Island apartment where the photo of baby Maya had been taken. "It's in the name of the Elena Alvarez Foundation," he said. "Not mine. It will be housing for single parents, rent-free for a year, while they rebuild their lives." Maya stared at the paper, her hands shaking. "Why tell me this? Because I need you to know I'm trying to be the man she believed I could be, even if it's too late." She looked at him for a long time. "I don't hate you, Victor," she said finally. "I did for a long time. But I realized hate keeps me tied to your mistakes. I just wanted you to see me." He smiled sadly. "I do now. I see her in you." The wind picked up, scattering leaves between them. For the first time, she noticed how frail he seemed, no longer a billionaire, just a man haunted by what he'd lost. He stood slowly. "If you ever want to talk again, you'll know where to find me." Maya nodded, but didn't promise. As he walked away, the skyline swallowed him, a shadow, fading into the city he once ruled. She unfolded the deed again, tracing the name Elena Alvarez. For the first time, that name was no longer hidden in someone else's shadow. As the wind rustled through the golden leaves, Maya whispered, "We made it, Mom." And somewhere in the noise of the city, it felt like the world whispered back, "You did." 2 months later, the Pierre Hotel glimmered once more. But this time, the chandeliers lit not a charity for the elite, but the first ceremony of the Elena Alvarez Foundation. Where billionaires once toasted champagne, tonight the room was filled with housekeepers, cooks, janitors, and their families. The invitation read simply, "Celebrating those who keep the city standing." Maya stood near the stage, dressed in a modest navy gown that had belonged to her mother years ago. Her hands shook slightly as she held the microphone, watching the crowd murmur with excitement. Denise stood at the back, giving her a thumbs up. Jonah filmed quietly beside the press line, his camera steady, his eyes soft. Lorraine Gray opened the event with her usual command. "Tonight, we celebrate work that never made headlines, but built this city brick by brick. None of us would be here without those who scrub floors, wash dishes, and hold their families together with nothing but faith." Applause rippled through the room. Then she turned toward Maya. "And this foundation exists because one woman refused to let the truth die. Maya Alvarez, please." Maya stepped forward, the sound of her heels clicking like heartbeats. She took a deep breath. "When I was a kid," she began, "my mom used to say we all live 2 lives, the one people see and the one we keep folded in a drawer. Tonight, I'm unfolding hers." Her voice wavered, then steadied. "Elena Alvarez cleaned hotel rooms, so clean you could see yourself in them. She believed dignity wasn't about titles. It was about how you showed up, even when no one thanked you. She worked for a man who forgot her name, but tonight the world remembers it." The audience rose in applause. Maya's eyes filled with tears as she continued, "This fund isn't charity. It's justice. It's a promise that no one's work, no one's worth, will ever be erased again." Jonah zoomed in on her face as she smiled through tears. Denise wiped her eyes behind the counter of the refreshment table. From the corner of the room, Victor Hallowell stood quietly. No tuxedo this time, no cameras aimed his way. Just a simple black suit and a look that was neither pride nor shame, something closer to peace. When the applause died down, he stepped forward, taking the second microphone. "I've spent most of my life building machines," he said slowly. "But I forgot that it's people who build everything that matters. Elena Alvarez built something I never could love, that survived even my failure. This foundation is my apology and my gratitude." He turned to Maya, voice trembling. "And this young woman beside me, my daughter, is the proof that truth, no matter how buried, can still find daylight." A hush fell over the room. Cameras flashed, but Maya didn't flinch this time. She placed her hand over his, nodded once, and together they held up the plaque that read, "The Elena Alvarez Fund for Workers' Dignity." Reporters swarmed, flashes bursting like fireworks. But in that moment, Maya didn't feel watched. She felt seen. Afterward, she slipped into the hotel lobby where Jonah waited by the marble staircase. "You were perfect," he said. "Scared out of my mind," she laughed. "But it felt right." He reached for her hand. "So what now?" Maya looked toward the chandelier above them, its light scattering across the marble like falling stars. "Now we live," she said. "No more hiding, no more ghosts." Jonah lifted his camera one last time. "One question for the record," he said softly. "How does it feel?" Maya smiled, eyes glistening. "Like the first day," she whispered. "But this time, I get to write the caption." And as the crowd's laughter echoed through the Pierre, Maya Alvarez knew her mother's story had finally come full circle from a torn photograph to a legacy no one could ever erase. So that's how our story ends, my friends. You're still here, right? If you've stayed with Maya's journey until this moment, then something must have touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. Maybe it's because deep down, we've all had a truth we were afraid to face, or a past we were told to bury. Maya's story reminds us that healing doesn't come from revenge, it comes from courage, from saying, "This is who I am, and this is what's true." The Stoics used to say, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Like Maya, we can't control what others do, but we can choose how to respond with strength, grace, and forgiveness. Even pain can become purpose if we let it teach us instead of destroy us. So if this story moved you, if it made you think about your own first day, again where truth meets peace, then don't leave quietly. Hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe for more tales that remind us how resilience and honesty can rewrite even the darkest past. You stayed until the end, and that means something. You're part of the story now.